Good afternoon, gearheads, and welcome to Speed City F1. We are out at Circuit of the Americas live for you for the 19th round of the 2025 Formula One season, the United States Grand Prix. Very excited to be here once again. John Massengale here, sitting across from me, my friend Jonathan Green. Jonathan, we're back in the booth for the USGP once again.
Yeah, and I have to say, this particular time, and we've done it since 2012, but this particular time I've never had more sort of goosebumps in terms of the championship, because it really is coming alive right in front of our eyes this weekend. It's been brewing. But it really is come alive with both McLarens going out in yesterday's sprint race. 8 points also to Verstappen after the sprint race. He's now in the game. And it really is a really interesting situation. And we're really watching McLaren throw away their huge advantage after winning the Constructors' title. Both drivers listening to them in the pen yesterday after qualifying on the back foot. They got no data. They didn't do the race.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And really, it's really setting up nicely for us fans, the way McLaren is stumbling right after securing the Constructors' Championship, and they may be looking to coast with Oscar Orlando to the Drivers' Championship, and Max has other plans. But I want to start with some other news, Jonathan Green, because COTA just announced a couple of hours ago that the United States Grand Prix here at Circuit of the Americas will remain on the Formula One calendar through to 2034, an additional
That's incredible.
7 years.
That makes it 22 years.
Yeah, that's just an amazing announcement, and I'm so excited to be able to bring that to you guys, because we've been here since the day they broke ground, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Literally, when I say here, I mean right where we're sitting right now at Circuit of the Americas. And this extension, this new contract, I should say, it's not an extension, it's a new 7-year deal. And it's kind of the trend with a lot of the new circuits, a lot of the new contracts for all the circuits, that it's long-term, that's 2034. But also with us today is Mr. Chris Medland, as usual, and he is out in the paddock. Mr. Medland, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, team. I mean, this is one of my highlights of the season, race day at COTA. This is one of my highlights of, like, the best weeks of the season. So I'm loving life right now.
Well, Chris, it is very exciting for us. We were just announcing the 7-year deal that COTA just signed to take us to 2034. And Bob Varsha has joined us in the booth. Very exciting to have you, Mr. Varsha. You were here the day that COTA was the inaugural. You were hosting that inaugural back in 2012, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I've been here pretty much through the entire brief, it must be said, history of COTA and a race. Actually, I was here when the first shovel went in the ground. So excited were all of us in the American motorsports community to have this Class 1 world-leading circuit, state-of-the-art in every way, and somehow it just gets better every year.
I'm going to argue with you just a little. You say brief. We're now, since it's now the 13th year, I'm starting to call that a little history, and it's starting to feel like there's a good history here at COTA.
Yeah, it's also, I take part in a lot of the lower formula, like Formula 4 and Formula Regional and sports car racing, and likewise Bob's the same, and we go to each and every track. And frankly, I know it's a hackneyed expression, but all boats are rising in motorsport. This circuit has brought motor racing, especially Formula One, of course, but all motor racing. I did Trans Am for many years, and even now Trans Am with Drive to Survive, people are more interested in what racing driving and what motorsport is all about.
Yeah, this is just so exciting. Well, Chris, you are out there in the paddock in the midst of it. Give us your eyes and ears.
Well, I'm going to actually pick up on something you guys have just said as well about brief home of the US Grand Prix. But I'm pretty sure already COTA is the second most used circuit for the US Grand Prix. And this contract,
true.
Watkins Glen has more. But this contract, when that runs out, I believe that will make COTA the most used circuit. And it will be, I guess you really could call it the home of Formula One in the US at that point. Because,
absolutely.
John, you said 7 years. I'm pretty sure it was 8. 26 was our last one, wasn't it? So,
you're right.
Maths on my fingers. I may well have got that wrong. But, I think it's an 8-year extension. Booking hotels for another decade, which is fine by me. Although, can we make them cheaper, please?
Yeah, no kidding.
Hopefully we'll have a hotel we can book into right here at the racetrack, but don't take it from me.
Yeah.
Well, that would be very cool to see here, but not so much for race week. Come on, you want to go and sample everything Austin has to offer, don't you? Like, as great as it is being at the track, and it is a huge event, you ask for eyes and ears. I'm dodging my way through VIPs and celebrities and paddock guests right now, trying to find my way to a walkway into the pit lane. But you can see all around you the people up on top of the tower. There's thousands of fans already trackside to get a glimpse of the cars as they make their way to the grid. Turn 1, Big Red, it's just a sea of people up there, and they're going to do some great development on the outside of that corner too. So it's just a massive event. Loads you can do if you come here. But then I think once the event's over, if you can fight the traffic, get yourself downtown, get yourself exploring Austin and the surrounding area, it's just a whole brilliant week to come here and explore it all.
It's so exciting, Chris. The traffic and the crowds have been more than they have been. They got the traffic under control a few years ago, but they may have to come up with new strategies because the crowd is getting so huge. The Friday crowd was huge, and we came in early, especially this morning to avoid that. But
we still got in it, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
We still got in it. But, hey, Chris, Jonathan started the show setting us up nicely, talking about the McLaren Drivers' Championship battle and how Max Verstappen has inserted himself into that battle. But George Russell is just outside that. And, Chris, you got to catch up with George Russell. And we have this interview you did, but I don't want to interrupt if you might be about to be interviewing someone there locally. But either way, give us a setup for George and let us know what you think.
Yeah, I'm all good for you to run that right now because most of the drivers at this moment are hiding away in their driver rooms, getting all their overalls on before they go and jump in the cars and head to the grid. But yeah, I managed to get some time with George on Thursday with my massive thanks to him for being unwell in Baku because that's when I was meant to do this interview. And he was sick and he had to cancel it, which at that point he didn't have a contract. And then we arrive here, and I've got an interview scheduled for Thursday, and the day before he does get a contract. So I spoke to him just about how important it was for him and how much relief there was that he finally had pen on paper and he could look forward to the future.
It's a very important moment for me, signing up for the future, and I wanted to make sure that it was right for me and mainly focusing on the things away from the track to help me perform at my best on the track. So, I'm super happy to be committed to Mercedes and vice versa, and there's a big year ahead of us.
Well, it's a big year ahead, but it's been a big year behind as well. Kind of how have you found it this year, dealing with that? Because you've performed at such a high level, but maybe not always had the certainty you'd expect.
I guess what the public perceives and what's written about is often quite different to the reality. For me, I knew there was a lot of noise, but I equally knew as long as I keep performing, everything's safe. And that's what allows me to sleep well at night, is that I'm performing at a good level, that I'm working really well with my team. I've got no doubts in my ability and my commitment professionally, and that's what, as I said, allows me to sleep at night and why I was never ever concerned about my future.
Yeah. Do you take then greater faith in your performance and the level you're performing at, or does the thing that maybe stops you sleeping at night come from the team side? Because I imagine going into this year, given some of the performances we'd seen from Mercedes, you might have had high hopes for the whole year, and it maybe hasn't come to fruition.
Well, I think McLaren have been the big surprise this year. If you said to us 2 years ago that we'd be within 20 points of Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship and ahead of Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship, you'd have said, sign us up. And we're happy about that. And when you look at our progress compared to Aston Martin, who were ahead of us in 23, Ferrari, who were championship contenders in 2022, we've done an amazing job. It's just McLaren have blown it out the water. So I think sometimes you need a bit of sense of perspective. Of course we're not satisfied with being second best. Of course we want to be the best and fight for a championship. But there is a reality that we've done a good job, they've done an exceptional job, but we have a good opportunity in 26 to go again.
Well, you speak about 26, as you say, massive change in regulations. But how well set do you feel for that? Because is there any fear that what's happened over the last 4 years could continue into 26? Or do you still see it as such a big reset that you have confidence?
It's a huge reset. I don't think there's any fear because I never have the fear of failure. I just work as hard as I can and with the team to give ourselves the best opportunity possible. Nobody knows what's going to happen next year, the same way as in the previous regulations. Nobody anticipated the porpoising. Maybe there was one individual on the technical side who potentially saw it coming, but 99.9% of the engineers and the people and the media had no idea what was coming. Now, we've safeguarded substantially more aggressively this year to make sure we don't find ourselves in a similar issue for 2026, but nobody knows.
Well, you mentioned McLaren being a surprise over the last year. I mean, how's it been watching those performances? Because that's a team that was further back than Mercedes maybe 2 years ago, and they're dominating now, and you must feel like you're ready for a title fight if you had that machinery.
I absolutely feel ready for a title fight. I think my years teammates with Lewis, especially 22, when he came off the 2021 year in performing so well, that was kind of confirmation to me that I can do this if I've got the car beneath me. But there's a number of drivers who don't get a chance or may only get one opportunity. There's so many great drivers over the years who have found themselves in that position, and all you can do as a driver is keep on working hard. But for me, I think my best chance of winning a World Championship next year is here with Mercedes, and that's why I'm really happy to be continuing the team.
Well, let's just quickly reflect on this weekend. Austin, huge event. You come here as the latest race winner from dominating in Singapore. How much do you enjoy racing at this track, and how do you think you'll go here?
I love it here in Austin. The circuit's amazing. The city's really cool. The people are so upbeat about the race. So it's just like, all in all, it ticks so many boxes, and it's really, bar Silverstone, my home race, this is probably my favourite Grand Prix of the year as a whole. And with regards to how we'll go here, I have no idea, because I've got to be honest, going into Singapore, I would have said that was the least likely place we could have won a race this season, and how wrong I was there. So that also gives you hope. Like, you just go into every new race with an open mind. Like, nobody can predict what's going to happen. That's sport. That's what makes sport and Formula One so exciting. All you can do is give your best.
A great way to celebrate the new deal, though, wouldn't it? Another win.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a good way to get the current deal across the line in Singapore. But of course, yeah.
Nice job, Chris, getting George Russell.
No question.
Very nice.
Perfect timing, really.
Yeah, I know. Boy, didn't he come out of the gate with a lot of brimming with confidence with the dive bomb moves yesterday. But Jonathan, I want to come to you because I want you to kind of give us get us up to speed on qualifying yesterday, because we talked about Max Verstappen on pole and the McLarens having difficulties, but get us up to speed.
Well, it was an interesting one because, I'm going to start right at the end, if you will. Verstappen always likes to go last, and that's smart by him, and he did it in the sprint race too. By going last, you probably get the best conditions, and he did it again, but he kind of got thwarted somewhat because he had to let Leclerc go through on a faster lap while he was slowing down, and he was only slowing down to get ready to do one more flying lap on his soft tyres. But he missed it by 2 seconds and therefore didn't get to do an extra lap, but he'd already done enough to get the pole position. And you might say, oh, brilliant idea to do that, because he saved some soft tyres. So he's actually got a relatively fresher pair of soft tyres than most of the other drivers if he chooses to use those. I think the medium soft is the way to go.
We had a chat with Mario Isola in the paddock a little while ago.
Exactly. We spoke to the head man
of Pirelli.
And he said, yeah, that's the way to go. But you could do a two-stop. And the hard tyre is harder than it was last year. So it's going to be interesting. But to go back to qualifying, the big story of qualifying, not only Max missing his lap, but still getting pole, was Piastri. Not qualifying well, neither McLaren qualifying well, and the bottom, or as well as they could have done, put it that way, because they've been chasing it, as I said, with no sprint race data and one free practice, they're on the back foot, simple as that.
Yeah, well, it is going to be fascinating to see this Drivers' Championship play out over these next few races, and this afternoon it should be incredibly exciting, but we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, We're going to get you set up. We're going to also talk about the sprint race that happened this weekend. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after these messages. All right, let's check in with the YouTubers. Let me get it brought up here. All right, I know you guys can't see us, but let's see who we got. There's TW, there's Tim. Good morning, race fans, he says. 1 a.m. here. What a trooper, Tim.
Yes.
He says, I may not make the post-race show. Oh, come on, slacker. Joe Voice-Bay is here. He said this is the worst for him, too, so he's struggling as well. And let's see. Kevin Kelly's here. 84 degrees in Austin. Let's see. Kevin is showing 81 on my Apple Watch, but it is gorgeous, I'll tell you that. It feels... Go ahead, Chris.
I said that was a plug for Apple.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Cha-ching. Where's the cha-ching sound, Casey? Come on. Bill Ricker says, nice to not have to rush to coffee on an F1 Sunday.
All those people complaining about how early it is for them to get up. Well, remember, pal, we're getting up too.
Every time, yes.
Kevin Kelly, he's tugging at my heartstrings. He said, it was John's fault I was at the 2012 race because Kevin Kelly was the first person to ever win the tickets we gave away.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I hand-delivered him to his sister's house up in Northwest Hills. That was awesome.
It's a good job we wouldn't get him into commentary. Poor lad.
He was even a little starstruck. Little did he know that I was such a big goofball. So, TW says Thailand making a big bid for a 5-year deal starting in 2027. Hope it's approved. Todd Dauber's here. He says, let's go racing. Welcome, Todd. He's always been here. And let's see. TW says, hit the like. We like that. Who thinks Oscar should get the same punishment as Lando after recent lap 1 incidents? Ooh, that's a spicy little topic.
That's a good one.
All right, here we go.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Welcome back to Speed City. We're live at Circuit of the Americas once again. The 2025 United States Grand Prix. Formula One is back. I'm looking out the window at the booth. We're kind of down towards the end of the front straight, down by turn 20.
Pit
looking,
end.
Yeah, at the pit end, and I'm looking. The media center is, and I'm looking out the window at the new roller coasters. That's
Yes.
an exciting thing.
Circuit Breaker, I'm told it's called.
That's right. It's really cool.
Get that? See how they did that?
Very,
Electrical term, but also motor racing
yes,
term.
yes,
Clever.
not bad, not bad.
Let's hope it doesn't.
And there's been a few people on it. It's actually functioning.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to try. They were trying to have. We know how construction projects go. They tried to have Coda Land is what it's going to be open, but not quite there yet. But it'll be open soon. So
That is one scary roller coaster.
yeah, it looks like it goes straight down to start, right?
Yeah. And you hang looking straight down for a few seconds
Before you start.
you release.
You know what? I'm going to get my thrills behind the wheel. I think I'll not get on the. I don't know. I may try it one. Maybe after Jonathan Green goes first and
No,
test it out
Jonathan
for me.
Green won't
I'm
be going
sure
first.
somebody needs a seat, so I'm going to let them have mine.
Hey, Chris Medland, you're out there with your microphone in the paddock. I was going to get Jonathan to break down the sprint race for us, but I want to check in with you first in case you're stalking anyone.
Well, I'm sort of stalking, but I'm actually already on the grid, so I'm out here enjoying
wow.
grid gigs we've got going on. Live music at the front of the grid that you
Chris,
maybe
while
can
you're
hear
there,
behind
what's
me,
the
maybe
wind doing? Is it gusty?
not. Oh, it's very gusty. Today is definitely windier than any of the other days we've been here. And right now,
Yeah.
in a sense, you're kind of sheltered because you're down on the grid. You're at a low point,
Right.
and I'm looking up at turn 1, a huge climb, where the huge American flag that sits on the outside of turn 1 is blowing solidly to my right. So that means a tailwind
Wow.
out of turn 1. And then the flags on the grid are blowing like a headwind down the pit straight. So it's swirling a little bit, but it's definitely much more gusty. And I actually was just speaking to a team member from McLaren who was saying that they're slightly concerned that they might be a little bit overly conservative with their setup because they didn't get that data in the sprint yesterday. Greeny will explain in a bit why they didn't get that data. But also that other teams may well struggle with these gusts in terms of rear deck being higher because the car will be more nervous and there'll be more sliding. And in that case, that might lend itself towards McLaren because they tend to be a little bit kind of on their tyres with that car. So a bit of like a Jekyll and Hyde situation here where certain aspects won't be good for McLaren and other bits might be.
Jonathan, this wind, before we go to the sprint, the wind here is a little bit unusual for COTA, isn't it?
Yeah, usually we have crosswinds from east to west, and that means that the wind is coming down the hill and across the back straight, which has its own problems. But now think about it, coming into 12, so coming into 11, you're going to have a tailwind under braking, which will be off-putting, and coming into 12 you'll have a massive headwind or gusty headwind which could affect braking and could actually have guys missing their braking points or not braking where they should be. And of course at the top of Big Red, as Chris has just described, it's going to be effectively going from left to right, from right to left as you dive into turn 1.
Well, Varsha, I want to ask you, does wind affect Formula One cars?
Oh, my gosh. Wind affects everything.
Yeah,
Any pilot will tell you, they all love wind. In fact, I said that on the air years ago at a windy Silverstone, I believe it was. All pilots and sailors love wind. And I got a text from a guy who was a Boeing 777 pilot. And he said, oh, yeah, try landing a 777 in a crosswind in a place like Switzerland. And it's not as much fun as it may seem.
And Formula One cars, it's not much different because the aerodynamics in Formula One is king.
Yeah.
And the wind, like Chris said, it's going to be swirling. Jonathan said it's going to be gusting, both headwinds and tailwinds. It could be the story today. We don't know. It could cause an accident.
Well,
no telling.
And I'll tell you what. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I made a quick check of the weather. They're saying average speed 15 miles an hour for that wind with gusts over 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That is a big, big deal.
Well, and what's interesting is it was a factor yesterday. I read all the quotes this morning from the drivers, and to a man, they all mentioned the wind. Specifically, Lawson said his lap was ruined by it. Antonelli, likewise, was struggling with it. George Russell said it's going to be a factor, and because he said it's going to be a 180-degree difference than it was yesterday, and it's right. It's going the complete opposite way. So again, they can't have, you could have experienced it yesterday and maybe adjusted the car for that, but it's completely a different wind and much gustier.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Jonathan, why don't you break down the sprint race that happened on Saturday for us?
Well, as I mentioned, Max Verstappen had the pole, got a good start, but actually, from the second row, Piastri got a better start than his teammate, Lando Norris, got side by side, wheel to wheel as they went up the hill. Defending his position was Verstappen. Also getting a good start was Hülkenberg, of course, who qualified so brilliantly. But as they turned into the apex, Piastri found himself behind Norris and decided that he didn't want to be there because Norris went wide. So he turned in to try to kind of, make the inside turn back move, which is what Leclerc did last year. But as he turned in, he found himself basically on the front of Hülkenberg's car. That meant he then hit Hülkenberg's car, and his car then hit his own teammate and took him out. That then followed that Alonso went out as well, and so it was, in the words of David Hobbs, a bit of a schmozzle.
And you don't see Formula One cars in the air this
very
much,
often,
and that car
Sorry
was
to interrupt
just
you guys at this point, but I've got someone you were speaking to a little bit ago. I've got Mario Isola from Pirelli here, and you've been speaking to the Speed City guys pre-show, Mario, but we were just talking about wind. How does wind impact a Formula One car in the sense that how then will it impact tyres in today's race?
They impact cars quite a lot, and it's difficult for drivers to understand a braking point, especially if the wind is changing. Talking about tire, you increase the surface temperature, but the issue here is a thermal degradation because this is a high severity circuit. So the circuit is putting a lot of energy into the tire, and this is not dependent of the wind or the condition. Obviously, the heat of today is making the degradation worse. Yesterday, we saw what happened on the medium. The medium during the sprint was showing higher degradation compared to our expectation. That means today the strategy is difficult for them. One stop using the hard or to stop using the soft is a big question mark.
And it's we've seen it's about 20 seconds, I think, that you lose in the pit lane here, making it a pit stop. So we've had variety in strategies previously. Last year, it was a one-stop that did win this race. Do you think teams will target a one-stop first and then maybe have to change?
I believe that majority of the cars will start on the medium exactly for this reason. If they start on the medium, they have the flexibility to decide the rest of the strategy. And if there is a safety car, they can change their approach quickly. Also, I'm expecting, as usual, that if someone is stopping early to try an undercut or something like that, the others are trying to protect themselves and changing to a two-stop strategy. So everything is possible.
We'll keep an eye out for it. Thank you very much. We like it when it's that way.
Nice, Chris. That couldn't be a more important person to talk to than the guy in charge of all the tires in Formula One. Interesting what he was saying about the wind and stopping distances, too.
Yeah, I think partly you've got to then look at, if you miss your braking point and you lock up, you're going to ruin a set of tyres. But also, if you just then are carrying a bit too much speed into a corner, then you might lean on the tyre a bit more to give you that bit more grip to make the corner without losing too much time. And that's going to increase your tyre wear, because we do hear about drivers protecting tyres. Managing tyres is the term we use, isn't it? And that is based on how much slip angle are they going to put in, how aggressive will they be on the turn-in of the car, because they're just trying to stop those tyres overheating. So it will be interesting to see if that does play a role too, but it sounds like, yeah, it's on a bit of a knife edge in terms of strategy today.
Yeah, no question about it. And going back to our analysis, of the sprint race, once we settled down, because it really was all at the start, Verstappen pretty much made it an easy day. And in fact, we only actually got 10 of the 19 laps completed under racing conditions. So a relatively easy day at the office and a quick 8 points, remember, for the sprint race. So Verstappen taking the win ahead of George Russell. Another excellent podium for him, having won in Singapore. And the big story, Carlos Sainz taking a podium for Williams. It's been a great
Another
weekend.
podium.
I know, it's been a great weekend for Williams. They really, both drivers scored in the sprint race, and Alexander Albon taking 6. And that's just, it's Williams. If we're talking about a resurgent Mercedes, we must do that same with Williams, haven't we? Ferrari drivers saying it's just almost an inconsistency with the car. Hamilton said big improvement from Friday to Saturday, but a lot of understeer to dial out, but surprised to be third and fourth, which is good, that was his
And let's not forget, this is a sprint weekend, so the drivers have one fewer sets of Pirelli tires, dry slicks, to use in the racing, and that could be a factor. Looking at Pirelli's figures this morning about who has how many sets of tires left. I mean, the Aston Martins have no more fresh hard tires. The mediums, it depends on how much you use, but because of the regulations that you have to use the soft Pirellis in qualifying, there's a very few number of fresh sets of those soft, unless you're someone who went out in Q1, never got to use the rest. So, yeah, I agree. It's going to be a medium tire race to start. And just see where that takes you, because as Mario Isla just pointed out, nobody knows.
Yeah. I just want to go back to Ferrari. Leclerc summed it up nicely. He said, I'm very happy. We just need to understand the swing of performance. It's big, and struggling in Q2 and 3, and then fighting for pole in the GP qualifying. That's been the swing, but they're confident, and the performance he thinks will get better. So watch out for Ferrari.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be inside of 30 minutes before the start of the 2025 Formula One United States Grand Prix. Back after these messages. All right, Casey, I'm going to step out of the booth and go do what I was talking about doing, and I'm going to leave it to Jonathan to run the show.
Okay.
Are we?
Oh, yes. Better see what the YouTubers are saying.
We dropped off air for a little bit there, did we? About 30 seconds?
No. Oh, okay.
Got ya. No, yeah. It was pretty quick and nicely done. I just thought it was me, and I was like, hang on, there's music.
What do you want to talk about, Chris? What do you want to talk about? What's on your mind?
Ooh, many a thing. Ferrari's a good one that we were just getting stuck into. Maybe some of the drivers that need a good day. A Yuki Tsunoda, a Isaac Hadjar after yesterday, that sort of thing.
Yes, that's a good. That's actually a good. Yeah, we talked about the positives of the sprint race. Let's talk about the negatives. Yeah.
Liam Lawson. Yeah. I mean, Isaac Hadjar's crash.
Yeah, and I'm looking on the interwebs, and a lot of people talking about the Stroll crash, which came from turn 20. He lunged from turn 20 to try to make a move up the apex. I'm being facetious because it was just too far back, and he piled straight in to Ocon, I believe. Mm-hmm. Not a good move. And
that was, wow.
Yeah. Also, people talking about the mediums seems to be the better for the heaviest fuel load, as a rule, and I would concur with that. Sorry about the no sound, but we are back on, and I'm sure you can hear me now. We did, I think, have a dropout here. They didn't put any money in the meter, or they didn't feed them ice last night here at Coda to keep the Wi-Fi going.
I'll tell you something that we're missing the Houston Texans cheerleaders out
we
there.
are, and the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Oh, my goodness.
They're working, evidently. I don't know what.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Welcome back to Speed City. Gunther Steiner bringing us back there. Gunther here this weekend working for Canal Plus. He can even speak French, even though you can't understand him in English. So I don't know how that works. But Gunther's actually going to be in concert tonight, you could say. He's doing his live podcast with Red Flag at the Paramount Theatre here in Austin. We had him on the show last week. And as always, he's always got an opinion, always got something to say. And he's got a very exciting future, having just invested in a MotoGP team just at the same time that Liberty buys MotoGP. Could we have a Drive to Survive MotoGP two-wheel style?
Well, if there is, Gunther will be a star, you can be sure. We had a chat with him Friday or was it Thursday on the way to the racetrack and chatted with him. And but he just goes from strength to strength and definitely has very sharp opinions about what's happening on the grid.
Yeah, no question. Well, talking about what's happening on the grid, let's segue nicely to Chris Medland. Chris, we've been talking about the sprint race, and add what you will, but we've described the main features of it, including talking a little bit about Stroll going out, Alonso going out, Stroll going out in his own crash with Ocon, which he caused. Not a very, didn't cover himself in glory. He's been given a grid penalty, and he also had a lap deleted, so he starts at the back. But I do want to talk about some of the disappointments from yesterday and how crucial they are perhaps going into this race.
Yeah, I think more of the disappointments occurred in qualifying, didn't they? Setting up today's race. Yeah. And I'm quite far back on the grid right now, and I can see Lance Stroll's car on the back row. He will be starting from 19th alongside Isaac Hadjar because Hadjar had that crash. Hadjar's a big one. I felt like he's been really consistent in recent races at just getting the car roughly where it should be. Not always in Q3, but quite often in Q3. So to make a big mistake so early in qualifying, I think will really hurt him. And he's going to be looking to fight back from the back of the field. But it's not like the Racing Bulls car has been all that competitive here. Liam Lawson up at 12th instead. So it's not like he's missed out on a huge opportunity so far. But also ahead of him, directly ahead of him on the grid in 18th, is Alex Albon, who missed out because he exceeded track limits. And we talked about Carlos Sainz earlier and his great performance. Albon really missing out in qualifying when the car's clearly quick in what is a very cool retro 2002 throwback livery as well, I must add, on that Williams. But yeah, Albon's out of position compared to Sainz, who is up in the top 10 after reaching Q3 again. So I think, I'm going to be watching Hadjar and Sainz to see how they get on. And one other point I just wanted to make was, as I was stood there waiting for Esteban Ocon's car to come into position, I noticed as the McLarens were pushed down the grid, Simone Resta, one of the technical bods at Mercedes, he's one of their chief designers, was walking very quickly, very close behind the back of one of the McLarens. Wanted to clearly have a look at something on the rear of the car. So he was marching behind it and staring at the diffuser. So teams use this time on the grid to try and find out secrets about each other's cars and understand design philosophies to see how certain things work. And for Mercedes, that would actually be quite beneficial because they know the power unit in the back of that car. They know the packaging it needs. So then they understand the solution that McLaren might have got.
Interesting. Yeah, a bit of espionage on the grid.
As old as Formula One.
Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I know that the weather today, we talk about the wind, but the weather other than that is picture perfect.
Yeah,
It's
no cloud in the sky.
81 degrees and not a cloud in the sky. What a picture perfect day for the United States Grand Prix in Austin. It's really bad in a way for you and I, Jonathan, because as locals here, the last thing we need is weather like this when all these people are in town. Everybody's going to want to move here again.
I know, that's the trouble. We'll have more loud bricks running around the place.
That's right.
Yes, it is. 300 days of sunshine here a year. It's a good advert, I have to say. Though I'd like to have them here in July or August when it's absolutely painfully hot. But then again, we'll put up with it. It's beautiful at this time of year.
Well, Mr. Bob Varsha, I want to see if you are ready to run down the grid for us because we're about 25 minutes before the start of the race.
All righty.
If you are good to go, let's do it.
Oh, if you're going to go to Bob Varsha, I'm going to interrupt you. You know that.
You know how that goes.
Before I even start? Oh.
Go on, Chris.
Ollie Behrman's car. Ollie in boxing again, but how painful was yesterday? Fought so well, but didn't get any points for that track limits infringement in the sprint.
I really couldn't hear your question in the end.
I was saying, how painful was yesterday's result with Ollie having that penalty?
Yeah, it was very painful, but to be fair, in the sprint quali, we were towards the back. In the sprint, we showed a really, really good pace. Yes, it's a shame about the penalty, but, that's the rule. So we have to accept it. And we just said, look, we got good baseline. We need to improve the car a little bit for qualifying and execute, which is exactly what we've done. So really happy to be here in P8.
Yeah, up in the top 8, and with an upgraded car that's sporting a beautiful Stars and Stripes livery here, home race. How is that upgrade working so far?
It's good. In FP1 we run S1 with the upgraded package, and then Ori with the baseline, so we can compare the data. And then that showed that everything is working as expected. So we put Ori on the upgraded package as well. So I think, to be honest, without it, I very much doubt he could have done this position. So no, it's working well, but it's a sprint weekend, so it's really so difficult to get the new package and get everything out of it. So I think there's more to come, but I'm very happy that we got to this position.
Can you put a number on it?
But in terms of lap time?
Yeah.
No. I can, but I don't.
Well, I had to try. Just finally, Nevin, what's going to be the key to the race for you guys today at getting a big result?
It's the detail of execution, because if you look at the lap time delta from, let's say, from Kimi, Antonelli all the way down to Nico, there's nothing in there. So it's going to be a very, very tight race with fine margins. So, you can't make mistakes. We really got to be on our front foot, executing it. Then everything has to be perfect to get a result we need. So,
good luck pulling it off. Have a good race today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Chris, I was chatting with you and hoping you could see it because I wanted you to thank Io Komatsu for hosting Jay Leno in the garage on Friday. Jay was our host. We hosted Jay. He was our guest on Friday. We got to host Jay for his very first Formula One race visit.
Quite an accolade, yeah.
What stunned me that he'd never been to one.
Yeah, that's the case. I mean,
yeah.
And he's done a whole bunch of Long Beach kind of celebrity races. And
it's Jay Leno. He's done everything behind the wheel of a car. He's been to every other kind of race.
Yeah.
But he told us why, and we've got a little clip of him that we'll play after Bob's grid rundown because he talks about we'll interrupt you, Bob, right in the middle. No, but we'll talk. It was really fascinating. But yeah, the Haas team hosted him as the McLaren team did too. So, but Bob, take it away. Sorry for the interruption.
Well, I'm even more surprised that Jay doesn't know more about Formula One because I saw his show once where he raced Dan Gurney, one of America's best ever, on lawnmowers around the studio property, and he won. So, with that little factoid, let's have a look at the starting grid. On row one, the pole sitter, Max Verstappen from Red Bull. 8th pole of the season, capping a pretty fair weekend, you might say, for Magic Max. pole in the sprint race qualifying Friday, victory in the sprint race Saturday, and finally pole for today's Grand Prix. You know, your basic weekend at the office. P2, Lando Norris for McLaren. There could be spicy feelings coming at McLaren after both papaya cars crashed out, as Jonathan told you about, at the first turn of the first lap in yesterday's sprint. Row 2, P3, Charles Leclerc for Ferrari. Just about 24 hours after lamenting the performance gap to the teams ahead of them, Leclerc qualified just 6 thousandths of a second behind Norris for a spot on the front row. P4, George Russell in the Mercedes, the sudden spoiler, let's call him, winner in Singapore 2 weeks ago, and Russell qualified just 19 thousandth of a second behind Leclerc. Row 3, P5, Lewis Hamilton for Ferrari, a finisher in the points.
It's about time I interrupted you again, Bob. Sorry, but I've got Laurent Mekies, the team principal of Red Bull. You've got a car on pole position today, Laurent. You had a car on pole position yesterday and you won that sprint race. How confident are you of doing the same again today?
We know it's a different beast. Today, it was already a bit more complicated than what we would have hoped yesterday in the sprint. Max did an excellent job, but in fairness, you probably heard him on the radio. It was difficult with the rears, difficult with the brakes. So we know it could be quite a long and tough race today with quite a few scenarios open. So let's see.
Well, you did improve the car, though, into qualifying, it looked like. I mean, the first lap in Q3 was insane from Max, the gap he had. Do you think you have made steps?
We think we have unlocked a bit more performance, certainly for the quality conditions. Difficult to see if the effect will be the same in the race.
And what about the biggest threat then? Is it McLaren or is it maybe a Ferrari behind you? Because they won here last year.
Yeah, you're right. We think they also have done a very big step on from between Friday and Saturday. So, we will obviously have a particular eyes for Lando, but we can also see Charles being a contender.
All right, well, good luck today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm
Good
waiting
stuff.
for a phone call from the race director to see if I can get Chris's credential pulled.
It's only just out there.
Yeah, that's true.
You could do it yourself.
Yeah, get the hook.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
where
not running
was
back
it?
into the booth after this, Bob.
Just make sure you sit down carefully. Row 3, P5, Lewis Hamilton for Ferrari, who's finished in the points in 15 of the 18 races to date. So the Hamilton project in Modena continues to bear fruit. P6, Oscar Piastri for McLaren, anchored in the points thanks in part to recent crashes with his teammate. Piastri risks missing out on the World Championship in just his third season as that Verstappen guy looms ever closer. Row 4, P7, Kimi Antonelli for Mercedes, sixth in driver's points and the top rookie. The Italian continues to improve following a lull in performance earlier in the season. 10 points finishes from 18 starts, and that includes 4 DNFs. P8, Ollie Behrman at Haas, a point scorer in both a sprint and a full GP. Rookie Behrman is feeling loose and confident, and in racing, that often means good things follow. Row 5, P9, Carlos Sainz for Williams, locked in an incredibly tight midfield point fight. Get this, 4 drivers covered by just 3 points. 7 drivers covered by just 9 points. You think these guys don't want to scrabble for a point here and there? Mm-hmm. Absolutely worth it. P10, Fernando Alonso for Aston Martin, despite admitting that the team basically stopped updating their car long ago to focus on 2026. The two-time world champion keeps punching above his weight in both qualifying and scoring, and he loves this racetrack. Row 6, P11, Nico Hülkenberg for Sauber. The Hulk qualified a sensational 4th for yesterday's sprint race, only to be involved in the first turn melee that eliminated both McLarens. And Jonathan told you all about that. So anyway, P12, Liam Lawson, Racing Bulls, fighting to keep his seat. The Red Bull in the Red Bull partner team. His results need to be more convincing in these final 6 races. He has a chance today, starting just outside the points. Row 7, P13, Yuki Tsunoda for Red Bull. Another driver running out of time to prove himself. Saturday's sprint was a wipeout for Yuki, but from 13th, he has an opportunity to score some needed points today. Remember how tight that midfield battle is. P14, Pierre Gasly for Alpine. A solid run into Q2 for the gas man, out-qualifying his teammate Franco Colapinto. Row 8, speaking of whom, P15 is Franco Colapinto for Alpine. Well, at least Gasly did out-qualify his Argentine teammate. We'll see shortly whether they can stay out of each other's way. P16, Gabriel Bortoleto in the Sauber. Not much to say this weekend about Gabby, who needed an exemption after posting no time in sprint qualifying 1 to make that race, and now a poor GP qualifier for the talented rookie today. Road 9, P17, Esteban Ocon on the Haas. 6 top 10 finishes from 18 races with 1 DNF as the American team tries to stay out of last place in the constructors' points. P18, Alex Albon on the Williams. A strong qualifier, but missing out on results while teammate Carlos Sainz has scored a couple of podiums. Williams will still need points from both drivers if they're going to maintain their 5th place in the constructors. Moving on to 19 is Lance Stroll for Aston Martin. Just 5 top 10s from 17 races this season. Big crash yesterday, leaving teammate Alonso to do the heavy lifting in the constructors' chase. Incoming, the air show has begun.
Helicopters, yes.
Who else? Oh, yes, Lance Stroll got a 5-place grid penalty for causing a collision with Esteban Ocon's Haas, and he really got his money's worth. A really clumsy passing attempt, and he T-boned Esteban Ocon's car. P20, Isaac Hadjar, Racing Bulls. Out early in Q1, the rumored future teammate for Max Verstappen, despite not only posting a quali lap, the stewards allowed him to race based on solid practice time. So remember that, because it's all going to change in about an hour and a half.
That's exactly right. Nice job, Mr. Varsha. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll get you ready for the last 10 minutes of our show and then the race. You're listening to Speed City F1, back after these messages. All right, YouTubers, let's see what's going on.
Yeah, they're talking about the papaya rules. I just want to mention what I mentioned in the car yesterday. This whole papaya thing, and everybody's talking about it, let's face it, including Zach, wrongly, but everybody's talking about how they're trying to manage papaya rules. And what we mean by that is race towards the World Championship, but cleanly. It's never seemed to work in the past. It never did with Prost and Senna. It never did with Rosberg and Hamilton. It never did with Villeneuve and Hill. So what I'm getting at is the truth is, and I think the way to kind of disseminate this papaya rules is to remember this, and it shows in the qualifying 5-4 that these two are the most close in parity of driving, and you could argue, as Zach does, that he has the best driver lineup. They are both capable of winning this world title.
That's the key.
That's different than any other team. I mean, the only one you could perhaps point to would be Hamilton and Leclerc in terms of that, because Leclerc's been there longer and Hamilton's learning the car. But everybody else has got an obvious one driver in Alonso, Stroll the second driver, and so on. So that's where I have disseminated, for my sense of it, is that basically the problem they've got is both drivers are deserving.
Hey, Casey, do you have the Gunther Steiner clip that I sent
just
while I was in the car?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, while you talk about
I shared it with you in the car.
While driving at 100 miles an hour.
How long left on the break, guys?
25 seconds.
20 seconds.
Got Dan Towers. Quick word with him.
Oh,
yes, let's do it. All right. 15 seconds.
Go straight to him.
No, that's all right. It doesn't need to be cleaned up. It's fine. Yeah, we'll go to Dan.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back to Speed City. We're live at Circuit of the Americas, and we're going to go straight out to our reporter, Chris Medland, who's in the pit lane with Cadillac. Pit lane with Cadillac. Go, Chris Medland.
Yeah, we're still on the grid, actually, with Dan Towers here, the CEO of TWG Motorsports. And Dan, we're less than 150 days out from Cadillac being on the grid. When you feel the energy of this USGP moment, how special is it going to be when you get to race in this sport?
It's going to be absolutely incredible. You know, every race as we get closer to Melbourne next year just gets, you know, the anticipation builds. But this race in Austin gets bigger every single year. It's very exciting.
How are preparations going? Are you feeling like you're on track for everything you want to do ahead of Melbourne?
Yeah, everything's going great, actually. The team's really coming together, continuing the recruiting process, the car build. all the things that need to happen as we look forward to 2026.
And speaking of looking forward, when you watch a race like this and you've not got a horse in the fight, really, who are you rooting for? What are you looking for?
We're just looking for drama and carnage, right? This is the calm before the storm, so I want to watch everybody else squirm.
I bet you do. And you've already had a win with the Dodgers getting through to the World Series, haven't you? So you've had a good week.
It's been a great week. What a performance by Shohei. So, yeah, it's all gravy.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing what you guys could do when you have cars on the grid. Thanks for your time, Dan.
Thanks, Chris.
3 home runs and 6 scoreless innings pitching. That guy Ohtani is the best.
And the reason that Chris is bringing that up is because Dan Towers with TWG, they own lots of different entities, including the Dodgers and several other teams in sports. They're quite the experience in professional sports. Mm-hmm. Chris, that was great, fantastic.
Great, that's a really good ad. Yeah,
it was quite funny. I spoke to him about baseball a couple of days ago, and being a Cubs fan, I was talking about the Cubs playoffs, and I went, "Who's your team?" And he went, "Well, we kind of own the Dodgers." I was like,
literally,
oh, yeah,
literally my team. Well. You know, we've been talking about the McLaren situation, and we got to sit down with Gunther Steiner 1 week ago, and we asked him about the McLaren situation. He had some fascinating insights. Let's hear from Gunther Steiner.
What do you think is going to happen as an ex-team principal to Mr. Brown? Is he going to find himself with egg on his face because he's trying too hard to make this the loveliest, most harmonious papaya-made sandwich ever, and it might just all fall flat on his face?
He gets full of papaya now.
But it's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tough one. But first of all, we have to start with the good things. I mean, Zach, what he put in place there is fantastic. They won 2 Manufacturers World Championships. And I just feel like last year, I would say it would have been difficult to win the Drivers' Championship, but there was a chance and they didn't react to it. But this year, as you say, there is a risk because the Red Bull has gone faster, the Mercedes is going faster. You know, the Mercedes is not in the race for the championship, but the Mercedes can take points away from the McLaren drivers because if Verstappen is going to win and the Mercedes takes away points from the McLaren drivers, in the end, the most important for a team is the Constructors' World Championship, but you want the drivers as well. I mean, you want it for the team. You want it for the hundreds of people working there. It's a cool thing to have. So my opinion is, why take a risk? I mean, that is my opinion. And obviously, I cannot assess how much risk Zach is prepared to take or how much he knows. I don't know. But at this moment, I would say, I want to win this championship and I need to make a decision because even if the papaya rules still keep on going and we try to be fair, it will not end up fair because they will start to fight between each other. Yeah. Because one of the two will want to. I mean, both of them want to win it, and then you do something. Normally, what the driver is doing, he's hurting the other driver, or they hurt each other because they both want to win. So at some stage, you need to interfere, and we saw what happened in Canada. Lando made an attack, which there was clearly no space to do it, and they got away lucky. Oh, Lando didn't get away lucky, but Oscar got away lucky without a puncture. You know, he ran into him, you know. And if this is happening, all of a sudden, if Verstappen scores 25 points and they take themselves out, the gap is getting small, and maybe it's too late to make the call. And I'm in the opinion, you cannot keep it peaceful anyway. You saw also the reaction of Oscar after the last race. So something is brewing, and at some stage, and I'm just saying it, and I respect Zach, he's a friend, I respect him a lot, his decisions, and I'm just talking, I would be getting scared of losing the championship, and I would be getting scared of my team losing faith in me if I don't make the decision. For me, I would just do it to make sure we win this Drivers' Championship. That's the aim now. And obviously, normally the driver which is in front in the championship gets, I mean, it's a logic thing to do, to get it to the drivers which is in front, because he's got an advantage, you know, and he got there with an advantage and because of the driving. So that's what I would say. Support Oscar Piastri, that's what I would be doing.
Okay, perfect. Hey, all right. Well, Gunther Steiner, he described it pretty good. Chris Medland,
well,
I know
let's
you're
get
out
one
there.
quick word from Zach Brown. Zach, how are you feeling ahead of this race right now?
I'm ready to go racing, but I feel a little hot. It's hot out here.
It is. That suits you guys, right, with your car?
Yeah, we should be good.
So, Max there for the taking?
That won't be easy, but I think he's there for the taking.
All right, well, good luck today.
Chris, asking about Jay Leno.
Too late.
Okay. he got to host Jay Leno as well and
Yes.
spent actually several minutes talking to Jay yesterday. But
Yeah, he did. Jay came right out and shook hands like old friends. So apparently they.
They know each other. Jay told me. He said, "Yeah, they are good friends."
They have two great car collections.
Chris, it's got to be mayhem down there now, isn't it?
It was. Actually, this is the calm before the storm, as Dan Tavares was saying. After we have the national anthem, which was stunning, by the way, it must be said. So awesome. And when the rockets go off on the top of the main pit building as well, it's amazing. But after that, it all starts to calm down because all the guests have to leave the grid. As media, we can stay on a bit longer, but it thins out a bit. And then the drivers are getting in their cars, so then everyone else starts to leave. So I was actually interviewing Zach as we walked down the pit lane and got to the McLaren garage and opposite their pit wall. And then he needed to go into his garage, which is why we had to call it pretty short. But that means I was already down at the far end of the pit lane. So, guys, I'm about 30 yards away from you, all on my own at the pit entry right now, going back into the paddock. It's suddenly quiet. This is the bit where it all thins out. Everyone goes to where they need to be, and we get off the track and we let the 20 best drivers in the world go and do their thing.
Fantastic. I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Bob?
No, but I wanted to add to this whole story. I agree with Gunther, and I have all the admiration in the world for Zach Brown and the way he has revived McLaren from the depths. And still, I have to agree with Gunther that their effort to achieve fairness by manipulating their drivers around is not either the fair thing or the most effective thing to do. When a driver has a bad pit stop, okay, that's racing luck. You can't tell his teammate to step aside and let him move back into the position he would have had if the team didn't make a mistake. I feel very strongly about that. It's been an issue in Formula One, it must be said, for a very long time. But I think that they leave the two drivers to their own devices, they'll get what they deserve, whether that's a Drivers' World Championship or none at all, because someone squeaks through.
Well, we got just a couple minutes left in the show, and we'll get to our predictions here in a minute. But I just wanted to talk about a few more things. I'm just looking at the starting grid. We've talked a lot about the front of the grid. We had George Russell on. You know, the Ferraris had 3 and 5, Hamilton in 5th, and McLaren 3rd. But Piastri is one of the big stories, of course, down in 6th. But Antonelli, he's been on a nice bit of resurgence in 7th, and Behrman in 8th. I mean, we've got some interesting little battles that could play out here.
I talked about that battle among the midfield drivers.
Yeah.
7 drivers covered by 9 points.
Yeah. You know, you've got Alonso in 10th, Sainz in 9th, Behrman in 8th, and Antonelli in 7th behind, you know, Piastri and the leaders there. That could get really interesting and spicy. And Liam Lawson has just been brimming with confidence lately. You know, he came into the league that way, and he is now very much brimming with confidence. So we'll see how that plays out. But and it'll be interesting to see how Isaac Hadjar comes from the back in 20th position, because he's got a quick car. So that'll be interesting too. Same thing could be said for Alex Albon down in 18th. So any final thoughts before we go to predictions, Bob?
Nope, it's going to be terrific, and I can't wait for it to get started, even though I did miss the cheerleaders.
What about you, Chris Medland?
I am buzzing for this one as well. I was quite intrigued to hear Zach Brown being quite so confident there. So McLaren think they're in a good place today. As I said earlier, I thought that the lack of data they had from the sprint might hurt them, but we'll see if they've got it right or not. Definitely very blustery in here, so I think we're going to see a lot of mistakes, and I still think we're going to see plenty of incidents. This track normally gives us all of that, so I think we're in for another thriller.
Well, and we're not going to get Jonathan's predictions, because Jonathan is actually over in the next booth. If you don't know, we do the radio and the PA, and we take the PA feed that we have in the next booth. So we're literally in 2 booths over. So Jonathan's jumped over there. But Bob, we got about a minute left, so we'll start with you on your predictions.
Well, being the pole sitter is not the guarantee of a race win that it is in a lot of tracks around the world. I think the last time a pole sitter won the race was 2021. So for this race, I'm going to jump that factoid and go with Max Verstappen to win, Lando Norris in 2nd, and George Russell 3rd.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Chris, I'm going to go and give you the last choice. I'm not going to take Verstappen. I'm going to take Norris for the win, followed by Russell, followed by Leclerc. Chris, what about you?
I'm going to side with Bob a little bit here. I'm going to go with a Max Verstappen win. I'm going to go Norris second, too. I'm going to go Piastri recovering to the top 3. So still Verstappen taking points out, but McLaren doing a good job of damage limitation.
All right. Well, we are just a few seconds away from switching over to our live coverage from the booth. So we're going to take just a quick break to do station IDs, and we'll be back right after this.